And a chair has been chosen and voted by the committee. Just for the record, Kevin LaChapelle from Chestnut Street has been elected as the chair. Do we have a motion for a co-chair?
Eric. I'll make a motion for Eric. Hire to be the coach,
I want
be
to
the vice
run
chair.
against him.
Okay. Nominations, just,
I second Eric.
all right, and the other suggestion is Jason, so Jason wants to run against him.
Do we want to do we need to do ballot or written, or can it just be those in favor of Eric, raise your hand. How do we need to do that, Pat?
Well, they also have to sign them.
Oh, okay.
They have to sign them and then you sign them. I was going to have you hand them to them. Oh, did you swear them in already?
No.
Oh.
Nope.
So, we'll swear.
We have a motion on the floor for voting for a co-chair. We have Eric Pyra's name.
Vice chair.
Co-chair or vice chair? How do you want to do that? Vice?
I said vice chair. I think you're better off separating it.
Okay,
Personally,
that's fine. You're the public official and probably know way better than any of us. So.
it's so
That's fine.
confusing when you co-chair. We're co-chairs, but it doesn't matter if you're really a vice chair.
Okay.
And you can either do it either way. It's up to the committee.
So you wanted to sign them before they signed them?
I already did it.
That's all right.
So,
All right, this is how we're going to do it.
who wants to be
We're going to
co-chair? I mean, I guess.
Eric and Jason would like to each co-chair.
We're going to do it this way. Okay, we have Eric Pyra.
We need a
As
motion
one.
for Jason. Motion to nominate Jason.
Are there any other nominations? Okay.
And this is the way we're voting? Okay.
Yes, I asked 3 times, nobody answered, so I just went with it.
In his first executive
Right.
decision.
All right.
Unless it's procedurally wrong, we'll run with it.
Got it.
I think that's it.
Who we voting for?
Eric or Jason?
Thanks.
While we're in the interest of time, while I'm separating this, can we swear Chuck Drew in?
We can swear all of you in.
Well, he needs to go like 15
Okay.
minutes ago. Is the big
All
thing.
right. So whoever wants to be sworn in with Chuck, you can just raise your hand and say aye. I, Chuck Drew,
Chuck Drew.
do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge. Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge
discharge
and perform all the duties
and perform all the duties
incumbent on me as a police station committee
incumbent on me
member to the best of my abilities. Agreeable to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God. So help me God, you're sworn in.
Please signify by saying I do.
That's not the best way to do that. All right, so
You sign. And
It depends
Paul.
on the works.
Same thing.
All right, so I
10
I talked
11?
do solemnly swear
Solemnly
So
swear
11?
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties incumbent on me
perform all the duties incumbent upon me
as a police station committee member
as a police station committee member
to the best of my
to the best
ability.
of my ability,
to the rules and regulations
agreeable to the rules and regulations,
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of New
Constitution and
Hampshire.
laws of the state of New Hampshire.
So help me
So
God.
help me God.
You sign that, yours.
Okay.
Yep.
That one's good. All right.
So, do you want me
Ken.
to wait? I mean, I don't need to wait. I
You're all
just,
set.
okay.
We'll fill you in.
Yeah, let me know, like I say, any other Wednesdays.
We have 4 ballots for Eric Tyra and 3 for
Chuck,
Jason.
these were the
So
handouts.
Eric Tyra will be the vice chair.
I'll let you know when they're
Right.
ready.
Okay, all
I,
right.
and name,
I
Thank
can
do solemnly swear
always swear,
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge,
especially as long as
perform all the duties incumbent on me
all the duties involved me,
as a police station committee member
please
to the best of my
to
ability,
the best of my ability,
agreeably to the rules and regulations
obey the rules and regulations,
this Constitution
this
and
Constitution,
the laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me
of the
God.
state of New Hampshire.
All right, now the other 3, you can stand up all by yourself and do it. Oh, you gotta sign this, Kevin. You just say your own name.
All right.
All right, so I have Jason, Eric, and Kevin. So I,
I, Jason Miller,
all right, do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties incumbent on me
perform all the duties incumbent on me
as a police station committee member
as police station committee member
to the best of my
to
abilities,
the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the rules and regulations
agreeable to the rules and regulations
of this Constitution
of this Constitution
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help me God.
state of New Hampshire, so help me God.
All right. You sign there, you sign there, you sign there. And then I sign them all. You're all sworn in, you can't get out of it.
So who was elected chair?
Kevin,
I am the chair, and Eric is the vice chair. And I kept them if they need to be kept. If not, these are my notes to this point, if you want that.
Oh, cool, thank you.
Read Harvard.
Yeah, I can do that. Oh, I was off just a minute.
There's 3 things on our work list, we only got 1 left.
Oh, sweet. We're efficient,
Right? Do we need to have everyone sitting at the table with the microphones on, or does it pick up everyone's
No,
voice?
you really need to be at the table.
Yep. So if we can
it
have,
picks up the microphones much
More clear.
much more clear, and then you can see it on the tape.
so are we all set to,
Pat, are you a voting member or non-voting member?
Ex officio, I can break a tie. So yes, I'm a voting
Make
member.
motions and second and all that?
Yep. Yep. Ex officio. Second member. Hopefully there won't be any.
so Pat, when you're all set,
I'm all set.
what we would like to do, before we go any further, is hear from you the direction that we need from the Board of Selectmen.
We need to pick a property. We need to figure out which piece of property is best suited for the town of Tilton. That's gonna be our first and foremost. And then we need to go ahead with the design and work with the architect, right, Joyce? On the design, and that's the direction which we need to go.
Okay.
And did you get paperwork onto that? So our next direction would be, you saw it, and which piece, you've heard Gary's take on it, and I don't believe you've heard either the captain's or the chief's view on the pieces of properties. You probably want to hear from them. Chief's involved in an arrest right now.
Is Eric, Eric was here last week, but Jason was not and Chuck was not. Jason, have you heard any of the opinion of the architect at all?
Nothing.
Okay. So at some point, we need to bring Chuck and Jason, I guess, to a level that they're comfortable with from the architect. Do we need to do that while we're in session?
Anything you discuss needs to be in public if there's 4 or more of you. The meeting is posted on the town's website, so you can watch the meeting from last week. That would
No, that's
help be
fine.
the easiest, because that's Gary did make his presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be good then.
Yeah.
So,
And he has a list in that packet. He has a list of pros and cons on each piece of property as well. And it is perfectly legal for you to update a member that's not here and say, hey, this is what took place and this is what the architect said, whatever. But you have to preface it also too with this is from your view of what he said.
okay. Before I will catch up with Chuck hopefully tomorrow. And what I would request from Chuck and Jason is that they watch last week's meeting and to bring you up to speed from the architect, and I can answer questions, or I guess one-on-one we can answer questions if Jason has any, or if Chuck has any questions. Because really at the next meeting we need to make a decision and work on choosing a property.
Are we choosing between 2 or 3 parcels?
2.
Just 2?
Just
The
lots
2
of-
that we viewed tonight.
Okay. Because I got a different slant from another selectman that thought there was a 3rd piece, so that's why I'm just clarifying here in this meeting. So there's 2.
Well, certainly I think we could push the question from tonight's meeting back to the Board of Selectmen and ask that.
Originally, at town meeting last year, there was a 3rd piece of property.
I'm not talking about the prep school.
Okay.
There was 3 pieces on Business Park Drive.
No, never. I think we owned one and sold it, and that piece is probably just misconstrued in some wording. We owned 61 Business Park Drive and sold it to Sea Light. They do still have first right of refusal of Lot 6 if we intend to sell that.
Yeah.
So, but Lot 6 and Lot 15 are the only 2
Gotcha.
lots that have been on board with any type of discussion with PD.
Jason, I sat at an informational meeting, Board of Selectmen meeting 3 weeks ago, and all of the selectmen were at the table, and those were the only 2 lots that were discussed during that selectmen's
Okay.
meeting. So we could ask for clarification.
I will, because it was Catherine sitting on the bench talking to the chief, and I was coming into town hall today, and she said, well, you can actually, there's a 3rd one. I'm like, wait a minute. So,
I don't know where that's coming from.
yeah, I don't know where that's coming from either.
Okay.
So,
I have no idea.
and neither of those voices
That was
gave me the clarity I was looking for.
that was the request, as far as I remember
I can ask
from
him
that
on that.
meeting.
Yeah.
So you
Put
can.
that on I'll put that on my list.
One of my open thoughts I'll share with the committee is that when we come to our next meeting, I would like it, if maybe a grease board or a notepad, and we can get down and dirty and talk about the pros and cons that we feel as a committee on the 2 lots. And we can, Pat or Joyce, whether we have the availability for a grease board or it's just some easel pads.
We have that easel with the paper on it.
Yeah, butcher paper.
Last I saw it was up in that corner. Yeah.
Is there another way that this committee would like to see that part of the workshop done?
No, that's fine, and I think the challenge for us would be, Kevin, is to, even though we may like one lot over the other, say I really like the corner lot, I would stretch myself to try to build a really solid business case for the inner lot, because that would show the extra due diligence. I'm just like, you know, I would try to get out of my comfort zone and really do everything I can to build a business case for Lot 6, whether I like it or not, just to get me away from something that I'm attracted, because I might discover something on a lot I'm less probable, but then that shows everybody that, hey, listen, we put both of these lots through the ringer. We didn't just walk out there and say, oh, this is beautiful, and, you know, but I think that's the kind of thing you say down and dirty was, boy, if we really were up against a wall and we had to do Lot 6, what can we do to make that, what are all the really good things, and try to put as much shine on it as we can, and then if it still falls short, hey, we tried, right? Rather than just kind of putting all, you know, making our opinion fit.
And we do have a list that's already been started
Yeah.
by the architect on pros and cons of both lots.
Well, and also the
Because some of that
geotech.
might resonate with somebody that thinks that we should do that.
Right, well, we started in that realm doing both the geotech services on
And I think that
both
was,
of them to make sure
I think
that
that was worth every
one
penny
was
to do
worth,
that.
right, one was worth more than the other. It doesn't really matter to me which one we are. It really matters to me that we get a police station.
Yeah.
Is there any opposition to workshopping that in that manner? Okay, good. Chuck's request was to pick the meeting schedule. He prefers not to have Wednesday nights. So if we can tackle a meeting schedule and look at it for the rest of this month, we did say last week that we would like to meet weekly until we can prove otherwise on getting some work done.
Tuesdays are a pinch for Eric because he's on planning. I'm on sewer. Those meet on Tuesdays.
Okay.
Thursdays is selectmen. Wednesdays is out for Chuck, so we're looking at Mondays. Really?
Or Fridays.
Yeah, I mean, or Sundays out, but it's Monday, Friday. If we already have town business going on.
Just the week of the 23rd. I will be out of town the 23rd, 24th.
But not as a rule. I mean,
No, just
Right.
I will be out of town that week, except for the Friday.
Ken, Tom, do you have any preference on meeting nights?
Any nights but Friday nights, I'd say. I have a lot of meetings with the state on Fridays.
Okay. I have a conflict with one particular Monday night. Is it? And I certainly don't, and that's in November 6th.
We just skipped that one.
Well, or depending on where we are,
might
Yeah.
be done.
you could run the meeting without me. I mean, I have no issue with that, and I can be caught up to
Eric
speed.
can run the meeting without me.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You can conduct a
Yeah.
meeting without me.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Well,
So,
the next three, Monday, the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th are all open upstairs, because the Conservation Commission meets downstairs. So you want me to schedule you in?
bear with me just for a second. Just trying to get in the calendar. Joyce, will you be setting an agenda for the meetings, or is that
Yeah,
our?
I could do that if you tell me what you want.
Okay, I can email you and, the other thing I think would work well for us if we pick bullet pointed items for the next meeting at current meetings of what our work will be. All right, so Monday the 16th, you said?
Yep. And it would be upstairs here. And you want to stick with the 5 to 7?
Sure.
The 5 is just a tad bit tight for me, but
It's tight for me.
It's kind of like, if it's 5 minutes, it's fine. I'm here in 5 minutes, but,
5:30.
Not walking property, so,
yeah.
you know, how much time do we need? 5:30's not,
5:30 would be much better for me.
So you wanna go 5:30?
yeah.
Sure.
Around Monday night?
Just given the traffic,
Yep.
That certainly would put me out of the danger zone.
I'll be coming from Guilford now, so I don't know if that commutes like.
yeah, well, I was coming from one end of Tilton to the other, it took me 20 minutes.
We gotta go up Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a meeting here at Tilton Town Hall on Monday, the 30th. Is that a conflict? It's a conflict for me on the 30th, because I'm in that meeting.
And that's here at the town hall?
Yep.
Oh, it's the,
Fire Department
yeah,
regionalization.
they meet downstairs.
Okay. So I will,
What time is that?
that's 5:30 to 7:30. So I will not be here for that one. Honestly, if you're not concerned with my absence and I can be caught up to speed and there's not a vote, I'm fine with that. So that Monday the 30th and then the following week I won't be here either, because that's Monday the 6th.
I think the biggest thing is to pick the site. Once we pick the site, we'll know which design configuration will fit into that site. Once we know what configuration will fit into that site, then we can start into the nitty-gritty of designing it, which perhaps maybe we won't need to be every week, but we do have to have 2 public hearings, so we have to be prepared to, and we have to have it done by February, is it 2nd, that we have to have the warrant article finished and prepared.
So the public hearings will have to be before February,
Mm-hmm.
so sometime in December.
Yeah, the budget committee, they usually do either the last week of January or the third week of January. We
Right.
moved it up last year, we
Yeah.
had the third instead of the last week. And then they always have one that Wednesday after the second Tuesday of the month.
And Gary said last week that you would have to give him at least a 3 or 4 week leeway to get done what he needs to get done as far as costing something out.
His estimator schedule.
An estimator's schedule, correct. So you figure it has to be done, he said somewhere in the vicinity of the first week of December, that we would need to have some, I mean, we've got a plan. We've, well, Jason wasn't here, and we have a plan,
drawings,
we have
yeah.
drawing, and we sat down with the chief and the captain and said, hey, look at this and see where it can be tweaked, what's wrong with this plan and what's right with this plan, and let's see. And we moved a couple of things around, and then Gary presented us with what you have now, with what the chief put down and the captain, a couple of changes. Offices were switched around. And the communications room was a little bit bigger because we need to have servers in there. So those kinds of things were, and we can go over that when we start in the design. But having said that, that's really basically what we have to do, and it's October now, so we really need to get the site picked by October, before October finishes.
And I think the meetings are almost secondary to the homework we have about, we talked about up on the hill, about hitting the streets, talking to our neighbors, getting some opinions
Yeah.
rounded up and reeled in so we can address some of those things ahead of rather than surprises. And,
Right.
our public meeting is out in the field before we have the public meeting, really. And that's all of our homework.
We said, to echo what Jason said, when we were convened in our meeting up at Business Park Drive tonight, the goal was to reach out after tonight and invite folks that we know would have interest in this to come to our meetings. We want their ear and we want their voice. We would rather have it up front than arriving at the public hearing.
I agree. I totally agree.
So,
There's one, we looked at 61 Business Park Drive a couple of years ago, and we lost by 1 vote, but predominantly, right straight through the meeting was visibility, visibility, visibility. And so we don't know if that's changed because there's a lot of PDs in the state now that have gone and built outside of downtown area. And you can see that over and over and over again. And every time they build according to where they have the space, and it's not necessarily visibility. So judging from past experiences with town hall, what they've wanted, and you really have to keep that input in mind and that feedback. So we get people in here during the meetings to give us that more feedback. That'd even be better.
There were two big questions that came up while we were convened at Business Park Drive tonight. It was power line parking. We're interested in a hard answer. We have a concern that was raised tonight amongst our committee that a building that's designed for meeting space for 50 only has parking, public parking for 9.
Okay.
So that was just a concern that we...
Right, we have a, so the way, probably, and you want to explain that, or do you want me to explain that?
Well, what I've looked at is, you wouldn't necessarily need to continue to pave a portion, but if you had that flat space on dirt, under the power lines, where you could add, put your overflow parking,
Right,
be essentially a dirt parking lot.
right.
Bank gravel or something.
We kept it, we made the training room to the number of 50 because 50 opens you up for grant and Homeland Security, LEADA, is it LEADA? In grants. So the original one was a lot smaller. We can use all of the back parking under the power lines. That's all our space. We can park under there, open parking space under there. There was a question on whether or not you could do an impervious surface on that as the total, according to planning in total, and that was being asked by somebody else. But you can put that down as all parking in the back. So what you would really be using for the training would be for offices and a lot of your training, dispatch training and coming in. They would be coming in and hosting, so it would be staff parking, which you would be using in the back, not public parking in the front. So in the back, you could accommodate a lot extra than the 20-some-odd site spaces that we have.
There was a leading question, and I don't remember who asked the question tonight at Business Park Drive on our site visit. Please pipe in if you would want to ask this question. Of, will this training room of 50, will we allow not public training, but other than the police department to train there? We talked about...
Well, absolutely. We talked about fire,
Yeah.
Which would open them for grants as well. Fire. Right now, we beg, borrow, and steal the Tilton School. And they've been very gracious with doing that. So yes, that would be open.
Okay.
And that was a discussion with the board.
But what about Joe Q. Public's Eagle Landing class that he wants to have?
I think that you really need to pick and choose which ones that you need to be in there because you're going to be into a police facility. And so there's only certain...
But again, we're going to be trying to sell this to the public, so
Well, it's not going to be a community room if that's...
You wouldn't want the Boy Scouts in there training and then having
Right, well, that's-
going
an
off
arrest, right.
Right.
vulgar language down the hall.
No, but that question's going to come up.
Right.
Because it's right
So
next
we
to
have
the
have
juvenile
the-
detention.
We have to have the answer
holding.
to every outlandish question that
Right,
might be
exactly.
out
Right.
there. We got to be
But-
prepared for that.
In the grand scheme of things, the training room is such a small portion. To have a room, whether it's this size or this size, is such a small amount of a budget number.
I think we originally had
Now, is the
37.
grant
Right.
to pay for the square footage or to equip the room? What's the grant? Because I remember hearing about that years
Well,
ago.
the grants are ongoing as long as you have the facility.
But the specific grant you were talking about,
The-
it was,
Right. If we had a training facility, a training room and hosting training, it would open us up to a lot more leader grants and Homeland Security grants,
Yeah,
which would pay for, like, for instance, the EOC equipment.
yeah, that's all, okay, so it's more equipment.
And, you know, probably
Right, if we start,
specific furniture.
right, and then if we host, because if you have the minimum 50 seats for hosting, then you can get free training for your officers,
Yeah.
Right.
which is a cost savings.
Yeah, yeah.
Because,
Thousands
like,
of dollars.
for some of the training I've been to, I had to go down to Hampton.
Yeah,
And that's a week-long course, and it costs us money, but if we host it-
mileage, all that.
If we host it here, it's free for us,
Right.
and then everybody pays to come.
Right.
So,
Oh, no, I get that, that's,
So and it's ongoing. I mean, Tim just got a ton of things with the Homeland Security grants. All our MDTs, all our frontline vehicles are all new MDTs and updated. And we've got the two new trailers from them and things. So we get a lot from them, but we could get a lot more.
yeah.
And it was something that was brought to our attention because we originally had, I think, 36 or 37 seats in there, and we said 13 more seats would get us open for a lot more grants and a lot more feedback.
And again, underbuilding
savings.
something has not gone well for this town.
Nope, it hasn't.
Overbuilding is bad, but underbuilding can kill you.
Right.
The other question that was posed, I worded as utilities assessment, that on both lots, have we conducted a utilities assessment for water, sewer, and electric? Electric is not really a problem because it's in the street and it's
It's in
there.
the street, water's in the street, water on both sides is up there.
Pressure and volume,
Yeah.
as far as water, and is it suitable? Will that support suppression in domestic water?
Yes,
That assessment has been done.
yes.
Okay.
The water company has done that.
Okay.
We can get those figures from them easily.
And I guess as long as the architect has it,
Yeah.
that's really the
They just did that 2 years ago.
Okay.
So, yeah, those figures are brand new.
okay, good.
There's sewer on one side, but there's not sewer on the other side of Business Park Drive.
It does go, sewer does go all the way up.
No, it goes up to 61 Business Park Drive, but it doesn't go all the way up, correct?
So both lots, 6 and 15 will be okay, as far as sewer.
Yes.
Okay.
That was one of the arguments that water wasn't up there. Now water's up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really for tonight's meeting, unless there's any new business that folks on the committee want to take care of tonight, the intent for the next meeting will be to roll up our sleeves and workshop the choice of lot, pros and cons.
I'd like to see some type of a member list that we can email. I'm sure Tim has already set us up with an email list?
A group
A group
email
list.
list for the committee?
And then perhaps if we get a list with telephone numbers, because, you know, if I couldn't meet you over there tonight because I was late, I couldn't get in touch with anybody except I only knew Joyce's number.
Do we want to have Joyce as our point of contact for all of that, or do you want to run that through the chair?
It would be easier if you just let me know and then I can get the word out.
Okay.
It's one less thing you've got
Yeah,
to take.
just keeping streamlined communication, I guess, is the key point. We'll funnel everything to you
Yeah,
for that.
but I think that's a good idea, if you're willing to take that on.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if we can just get emails and telephone numbers for everyone, that would be great.
Are there any questions based on the current information that we've either discussed to this point, or all the literature that's been provided by the architect or the Board of Selectmen? Jason, you have a packet?
I do.
And you've had a chance to at least look at it. And, if there are no further questions for tonight, I think our work is done for tonight's meeting, unless there's anything further.
I just want to hand out the town's ethics policy. And I'm sorry I don't have the minutes done from last week. As soon as I have them, I'll email them to everybody. Well, we don't, you're nothing but that guy. And after the selectmen met last Thursday, Gary had asked me to give him a summary of the selectmen's meeting, and that's,
Okay.
this should be helpful information.
Thank you.
More paper, but this will probably be it. Minutes you can read online. Did I get you, Eric, on this?
You can get me.
No, on this.
What is it?
Major ethics policy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. While we're still in session, there was a discussion at Business Park Drive tonight about minutes of our meetings to this point. Joyce said that she will provide minutes at our next meeting, and we'll have to, Joyce, can you email those out to everyone?
Yes, I'll email the
And if we can
draft
read
out.
them, the draft, and then we can accept them at the next meeting.
And then if you want to email me back, like if you find something that doesn't quite do whatever, by all means, because we do this in Google, so it's really easy to make changes.
Okay. Is there anything else to come before the meeting?
No,
Next meeting will be Monday at 5:30.
the 16th.
Monday, the 16th at 5:30 up here.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Right, good feet. That's you.
Yep.